Celestine Tina Knowles-Lawson, aka Beyonce's mom, and her second husband Richard have split up. This is somewhat surprising because by all outward appearances, they had a rock-solid relationship. Apparently, they'd been putting on quite a show and pretending like everything was okay for months, while in reality, there was trouble in paradise. There's been a lot of speculation by fans about what went down to cause the divorce, and Tina has recently come out and spelled it all out for us. So, what did Tina say about what caused her divorce? One of the most unfortunate things to go down this month is the insane number of celebrity divorces that are happening in Hollywood right now. And now, sadly, Tina Knowles is getting added to that list. Tina and Richard were pretty private about their relationship and didn't share intimate details about it in public. But when they did talk about the relationship openly, everything they said about it reassured people that their relationship was going fine. One of the most disappointing things about all of this is that people really thought that Richard was going to take care of Tina and treat her better after all she'd gone through in her rocky marriage with Beyonce and Solange's dad, Matthew Knowles. People were really cheering for her and hoping that her marriage with Richard was truly her happy ending. Matthew and Tina had been married for more than 3 decades, but they weren't happy years. There are a lot of rumors stating that he cheated on her repeatedly pretty much from day one, and that couldn't have been easy for her to deal with. And you'd think he'd stop stepping out once Beyonce rose to fame because more eyes would be on him, but nope, it actually got worse. He actually knocked up 2 different women in the same time period. The second extramarital baby was just it for Tina, so she filed for divorce. Beyonce fired Matthew as her manager because of all of this. Of course, that wasn't the official reason she stated. She said she fired him because he was suspected of having stolen from her. But people have always speculated that it was because he'd got caught cheating on her mom and having 2 different babies with other women. And it's obvious that Queen Bee is upset about the situation because she's never made any kind of acknowledgement of her 2 half-siblings. Tina's divorce from Matthew was fully finalized in 2011, and she started dating Richard in summer 2013. But the surprising thing about these two is that they've known each other and been friends for over 30 years. Tina's best friend is Gwen, who is Richard's sister. Tina and Richard met in 1981 during a visit Tina had made to Gwen while she was super pregnant with Beyonce. And even though she was pregnant with her husband's baby, Richard was pretty much instantaneously attracted to Tina. So he started trying to put the moves on her, knowing that she was a pregnant married woman. She shot him down at the time, which was understandable. She wasn't the only one married in the scenario. He had a kid too. He didn't just give up on Tina. Despite her rejecting his advances, he stayed quietly over in the friend zone for more than 30 years, even though he was completely in love with Tina. He gets points though because even if he was waiting on the sidelines, he never crossed any lines, and they say that they never did anything inappropriate while she was still married to Matthew. But there are a lot of people that think that's just a story though. They think that the two were having a secret affair, and that's why Tina put up with Matthew's cheating for decades. It's a lot easier to deal with a spouse that's stepping out on you if you're stepping out too. Of course, that's all just speculation and gossip, but it wouldn't be one of our videos if we didn't give you all the tea. Of course, once Tina was divorced, Richard knew it was his time to shine, so he went back at it, making moves on her. You really can't question this man's level of commitment because he waited on her for 31 whole years. Tina shot him down again at first. A lot of people think that this was because he'd had a baby with another woman right after his divorce from his first wife. He wasn't actually in a committed relationship with the women he knocked up, it was just a fling. So he wasn't out here cheating on anybody to try to get with Tina. But Tina just wasn't that interested in that messy of a situation. And that's understandable after Matthew going out and having some flings that resulted in babies of his own. Richard worked on her over the next 2 years. She eventually gave him a chance and they started dating in the summer of 2013. At that point, he'd waited 32 years to get with her. The two had been going steady and kept everything fun and casual until Tina's granddaughter, Blue Ivy, asked them when they were going to get married. This is just adorable because Blue was just a toddler at the time, but it also shows that she loved them both and wanted them to be together. Richard obviously knew who was in charge though, because he asked Blue for her blessing to marry her grandma, and she happily gave it. Because they'd been so casually dating, the couple hadn't discussed marriage up until that point, but they took little Blue Ivy talking about it as a sign. They were married a year later. Something that people found a little odd was that when Tina got married to Richard, she kept Matthew's last name and just tacked Richard's to the end of it to become Tina Knowles-Lawson. That definitely garnered some sideways looks in her direction because of how rocky her relationship with Matthew was, and now that she was divorced from him, there really wasn't anything preventing her from dropping his name. But it's possible that she just wanted to hang on to it because it connected her with their 2 daughters. Because they'd waited more than 30 years to finally get married, they had a massive amount of support behind them because people were so happy to see them finally together. They were seemingly the ideal couple. One never made a public appearance without the other, and you could barely take a picture of them where they weren't holding hands. In 2018, they did an interview where Tina admitted that Richard wasn't the perfect man that everyone thought he was.
Prayed for the type of man I wanted, and I got pretty much that. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. But, you know, he has a lot of the qualities. He has a lot of the qualities that that I love, and we're having a really good time.
This stirred up all sorts of online drama. You can just see in Richard's face that he wasn't happy about what she'd said about him. What she said was pretty innocent, all things considered, but the way she said it was what weaponized it and made it seem like she was calling him out. If you forced us to choose a point as to when their relationship started going downhill, it was that interview. Although it seems like stuff wasn't great before then, or Tina probably wouldn't have said that either. They no longer had that appearance of being an abundantly happy couple after that. Rumors about an impending divorce had been circulating for months before it finally happened too. Tina had been posting pictures of herself and her hubby pretty frequently on Instagram, but the last one was a picture of them months ago from the Vanity Fair Oscars party back in March. And more telling, Richard wasn't invited to Jay-Z's mom's wedding a few weeks ago, despite the fact that Tina went herself. And since it's traditional to bring a date to weddings and Richard wasn't one to make Tina attend events by herself, people started wondering what was going on. But it got worse when Tina didn't go to the screening for Black Terror, which is the newest movie that Richard directed. Some really observant fans noticed that Richard had forgotten to wear one very important accessory to the event, his wedding ring. Of course, that's really out of character for Richard, and it was cause for concern. But the nail in the coffin for most fans was when Tina took Richard's last name off her bio on Instagram. You see, it had read Tina Knowles-Lawson, but now clearly says Tina Knowles. So because of that, people took that to mean that the marriage was well and truly over. An insider close to Tina said she'd been trying to downplay the significance of her separation from her husband in hopes that people just wouldn't notice it if she didn't draw attention to it. Sources say that things haven't been good between the two for a while and that the marriage had simply run its course. Of course, they tried to work on the relationship and fix it, but at some point Tina realized that she just didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. She thinks that it's better for them both to go back to being just friends, and that trying to force the marriage to work would only make things worse between them. When it comes to speculation about the real reason behind the marriage ending, some people think it's because allegedly Tina is a huge perfectionist and is too controlling. And you know that people had a lot to say about this drama. One person said, "Just because you knew the person before doesn't mean it's going to work when you finally get together. Things change and people change over time." This came from another fan. "I am not surprised. She does not respect Mr. Lawson. She also appears very condescending. If she disrespects him in interviews and on the world stage, imagine what happens behind the scenes." Another person said, "I watched that interview and I could tell they weren't going to last. People need to understand that not every person you like means you're supposed to be with them. I think he got caught up in the idea of who she was in his head and thought that's who she'd be." What do you think? Was Tina really to blame for the relationship not working out? Do you think that Richard's cheating past repeated itself? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.